Hey y'all, welcome to the podcast. And before we get to today's episode, this is a friendly heads up. This is episode 7 of a 10 episode season. So that means that we only have 3 episodes left. So the why behind that is there is a mass of time between Memorial Day and Labor Day. And to make sure that we are balancing our time with family, we are going to take a pause from this podcast. So, for your planning purposes, after this, we're going to have one episode in April. That's going to be on the 14th of April. And the reason for the delay there is we aren't going to do anything over the Easter weekend or drop anything over that weekend. And then we will have an episode on the 12th of May and then the 26th of May, which is Memorial Day. And after that, it's off to the beach, international travel, whatever else for us to recharge, reconnect, and then come back to you guys at the start of next fall and hit it hard with season 2. Anyway, now that that's out of the way, here's today's episode. And the gremlins are out of the machine. We are live again.
Well, most of the gremlins.
I've been meaning to ask this.
What's up?
In one of the paintings behind you, is that a tornado?
That is a tornado.
Okay, I'm not seeing things.
Yeah,
okay.
You know, my little it looks like it's my child's art, but no, it's actually the 34-year-old adult man who tries to oil paint and is proud of his stuff.
Okay.
Very nice.
Better than I can do. So.
Yeah, you know. Hi, everybody. Welcome to, I think this is episode 7 now of the Model Train People podcast. We've got a guest with us tonight. Carlo Mastracci, also known, or really he's the brains behind Allegheny Northern and N-Scale. It's a YouTube channel who I think you've been on for, 10, 12 years now?
About that long, yeah.
Yeah. One of the first people that I ever came across when I was originally starting to try to get in the hobby about that long ago, but has a massive basement empire that I think is on to round 7. Listen to some of your stuff. But Carlo, welcome. How's it going?
It's going good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of cranes and stuff in the background there. So you're an engineer by trade, right?
Construction manager, actually.
Mm.
Yeah, it was actually before the trains. It was the heavy equipment that got me started. So in and amongst the trains, I also have a lot of 1 to 50 scale construction equipment that's in the display cases behind me and over there, and some in the other room. It's all over the place.
Okay, cool. So that makes sense then. That I know a lot of your scenes, or at least scenes past. I know obviously you have a lot of stuff that's under construction right now, but you have construction scenes that are sitting on your layout, and that I guess is an homage to your background with that.
To work, yeah, more or less.
Yeah.
Nice,
those scenes actually grab a lot of comments on all the videos, even though they're not the focus, because everybody wants to know where I got that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a heartbreak to tell them. Well, most of it was 3D printed on Shapeways, which is gone now.
Yeah. That's
Never
such a blow to the hobby.
Did you guys ever do any Shapeways stuff?
I did one. I got it's the dumbest little thing, but I got the proper horn printed for my my N-Scale 4316 project because I wanted the correct horn on the roof of the locomotive. So I got
That's not dumb. That shows you care, right? And you're trying to
It's dumb when you realize they sent me a box about this big for 6 horns that are about that big. So that's the dumb part. But yeah, that was a huge blow to the hobby when Shapeways went down.
Yeah. So I guess before Shapeways, were you using PLA, or is it you're doing primarily resin stuff when you're printing that stuff out, Carlo?
So I actually don't print anything here yet. That's something that I was planning on getting into this year, is actually setting up a print lab. I've got the space for it, but I don't have the time to take on another facet of the hobby. It's like,
Yeah, I feel you
Too
there.
many hobbies within the hobby.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I downloaded the Blender software and was going to start learning it, but it's just haven't had time to do it.
Yeah. God, I feel you on that, and I wanted to say thank you for your flexibility back and forth. I know we were kind of talking this evening, so I was telling the guys before you hopped on. I was just in Orlando for a funeral, and the Saturday, the morning of the funeral, I've got a 1 year old. He looks at me, my wife and I, smiles, sneezes, does the double snot rocket, and yeah, that was the end of it for us. So he kind of he luckily got a really mild cold. It hit me started Monday, and then like by like the end of last week, like I was just dying. Missed work on Friday, and now my wife is starting to go through what I just went through. But our son is also going through a phase where all he wants is mom.
Yep.
So it's like I was like, hey, she's like, hey, I'm not feeling good. Can you get him down tonight? I was like, yeah, I totally got it, but only I was just like, she's like, yeah, dude. She's like, give me the baby. It's like, all right, here you go. She's like, have fun. It's like, thanks, babe. So I'll pay for this in the back end somewhere. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
It all
again,
comes
thank you
out
for
in
the
the wash.
flexibility on that one. But well, cool, man. So you have been a at least I don't know a constant. At least I know you're sitting somewhere around 6.8 thousand subscribers. I think is what's sitting on your YouTube. Maybe more. Maybe that's what you're like averaging for views on your videos. I think I might be.
Yeah, it's about 6.4, I think. We're
Yeah,
getting right. Yeah.
but
So go ahead.
no, go for it. Go for it. Sorry.
Yeah, it's I've been on the channel for what 10 years, maybe something like that. But it's really been only the last 2 and a half that it's been the channel's had an identity. Before then, it was just random stuff.
Yeah. Well, hey, there's goodness in the random stuff, right? But so so construct you're obviously have a construction background. You're in Western PA, so around the Pittsburgh area, correct?
Correct.
So what got you into model railroading?
So when I was, I think before even I was a teenager, my parents bought me a Bachmann N scale set for Christmas, and that pretty much did me in. There was a toy store in the area that was KB Toys, and they had a small section where there was Bachmann stuff. So every time I'd get a few dollars, I'd go and I'd buy a flat car or a box car or something, and it wasn't the great quality stuff. It was the toy store brand,
Yeah.
but that sort of took off, and then before you know it, that started going to train shows. Then I got adult money and went, wait, there's a whole nother facet to this hobby. And so I've kind of been following along as the hobbies matured. I've kind of just stayed with it.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, actually, when I bought my house, it was the only requirement that I had from the realtor was I want an unfinished basement. I want nothing in the basement because if there's something in there, I got to tear it out anyway.
Yeah.
Um, and so she showed me houses that had unfinished basements, and so the whole house was built around. Bless you, I think.
Yep. Yeah.
the
Sorry.
the whole the, that's okay. The whole house was basically purchased around doing what I'm doing now.
Nice.
So yeah,
Man, KB Toys. Like, so we had I don't know if you've ever seen El Jefe and Inscale, but we had him on here about a month ago, and
hmm
same thing, KB Toys. And it's like, man, I can't believe like I was a kid in the '90s, so it's like I remember KB Toys, but I don't remember their like having any type of model trains in them. But again, I was a little, so of course I'm not gonna remember that. But man, it's kind of like I wish at times like Tyco and the Bachman stuff was something that like go to Target or go to Walmart and have that readily available to purchase and expose kids to.
Hmm.
right. I mean, and don't let the gray and the beard fool you. I grew up in the '90s too. I was that was the decade.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and everything else has sucked since then, right? But like that was, that was, there was a lot of cool stuff. I mean, there was Toys R Us was still around.
dude, yeah.
Uh, I mean, so it's like now, um, you know, my friends, my family members, they're having kids, and it's like, well, where do I go to get stuff? Because
Amazon. Duh.
Yeah, it's Amazon now, but it's like if I actually want to go to the store, it's like you can't do that. In fact, I just went to the hobby shop yesterday. I didn't need anything. I was just it was a crappy day, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna go see what's up. And those are dwindling,
Yeah.
Yeah,
so that's sad.
we had a whole talk about that. Was that with Jeff or was that with the episode before?
No, I think that was the one that was our lost episode.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we were talking about like yeah, like there is definitely like I think we're all lucky and Sam, I don't know about like the Indiana Detroit area, but at least like Dennis is in the Hudson River Valley. Obviously, you're in Western PA. I'm sitting here in South Jersey in the Philadelphia suburbs, and if you're in this part of the country, like there is a lot of stores that, you know, when I used to live in South Texas in San Antonio, like granted I wasn't in the hobby then, but like it's Hobby Lobby, maybe like a Hobby Town USA, not a lot of dedicated storefronts that are focused primarily on model railroading like Train World or like there's a small mom and pop by me called Sattler's Hobby, Yankee Dabbler in Belmar that is a 30-minute drive for me, and they've shifted the majority of their storefront is now all online, and you go in person, it's like a nuke went off in their store. Granted, they're still able to get stuff, but they're just turning orders because that's the outreach now versus
Right.
versus Sattlers, which is love the dude to death. He has no online presence, which is great because if there's something that has like sold out on one of the main like your Midwest model, like Midwest Hobby or whatever, any of the big ones, he'll probably still have it. But it just kind of sucks, and it's just like, man, like you are the dinosaur, then the dying breed, and it's just kind of cool to go in there and get that. Like, yeah, let me. It's like, hey, let me. I came real close to buying a Penn Central Jeep 40 from him, DCC, and he put it on the his little test track, which is super cool to see, and it wouldn't work. And yeah, very much like we're sitting there making jokes, and it's like, well, I mean, it is a Penn Central. I mean, what do you expect? But
It does bear the
um,
mating worms.
yeah, but like that touch point to go in person and have somebody like, yeah, let me put this customer service into it, show you that it runs, put oil in the gears or whatever, and then send you on your way versus running the risk of getting something in the mail, and which is something I know you've touched on. I know with like some of your, some challenges you've had with like some companies. Having bad product or whatever, and then it's like, well, great, what do I do with this now that I have it?
Right. I mean, and you just have to go back to my videos, and you know who I like and who I don't like. But like, I know that I've got an order coming tomorrow. It's nothing exciting. It's just a bunch of track, but like, there's something very nice about just having it waiting on your doorstep when you get home.
Oh my God,
Uh,
yeah.
but at the same time, like, so there's a little hobby shop that's not far. Well, it's not real far. It still takes an hour to get to it, but like, it's not that. It's
Yeah,
like
that's
10 miles
nothing.
away.
Not
Yeah.
that bad,
But
yeah.
like, when you finally get there, they have stuff that you're not going to find online just because it's been there. They found it in a basement somewhere. I picked up a model power or a Concord model powerhouse yesterday. It it was a $30 model. I don't know how the kit's going to come together, but it's like you're not going to find that online because it's
Hmm.
probably been out of production forever.
Yeah.
So it's fun to find that kind of stuff. And if you're buying something new that you've never seen before, I mean, we all know what the Woodland Scenics products look like, right? So if you order those online, you know what you're getting.
Yep.
But when new products come out, it's nice to be able to go there, see it, touch it, look it over and go, yeah, this is something I want to spend my money on. Because like you said, the locomotives are probably the big one. You buy a new locomotive and you're going to expect that it's going to
It's
run
working out the
perfectly,
box. Yeah.
and you find out it doesn't, and it's like, well, now do I drive back to the store? Oh wait, I can't. I bought it online. I don't know where the store's at. So yeah, it's different.
It's
Yeah.
kind of where I wish that the Great Train Store chain was still around. I remember there was one on the north side of Detroit, and there was one out in the St. Louis area, and they had, I think, over 55 stores across all of America. And then I think it was around the turn of the century they ended up closing down and going bankrupt. But it was like, and that itself was a great miss out of the hobby, is to have a chain model train shop that, like, it didn't matter where, you could go to any one and pretty much expect the exact same quality service and products from them. That
Turn of
was
this.
just, yeah, that was just a big loss because
Yeah,
they had everything, literally
never
everything,
heard of
including.
them.
I remember them
Oh
very
yeah.
clearly. They were pretty big. I even remember seeing them featured in a Pentrix video during the
Hmm.
1990 St. Louis NRHS convention. They actually ran a promotional on all of their Pentrix tapes at the time, and Pentrix was actually in filming the sale and included it in the video. I remember that one pretty clearly. But I also remember it because when they went out of business, my dad, who was a big eBay guy, saw a deal when he saw one and went to our local one on the north side of Detroit and bought like two trash bags worth of the Lionel wooden train line, their plastic wooden train line of all of their whistling tenders, and sold them on eBay for like three times the sale price. I remember that so clearly.
That's
That's how I
did he
remember
did
it.
he did he turn the profit though?
Oh yeah, definitely. He
Nice.
he sold all of them as far as I could remember. He sold every single one, and he got them at such a discount. I remember him walking out of the store in the mall with two trash bags just full of these toy trains and going home and listing them on eBay and selling them and making a profit. But then again, that was late 90s, early 2000s. So,
And Dennis, you just posted this. Let's see this.
Yeah, this is
Well,
just a thread about the closure of great train stores.
oh yeah, yep.
It looks like they just wound up going bankrupt, filed for Chapter 11 in 2000. It sounds like they had
mm,
a great concept for a local area, I guess maybe Midwest, and like they tried to expand it to places where it just doesn't work,
Yep.
and too much money spent and not enough money earned.
Plus, that was around the time of the .com
Yeah, the
explosion,
bubble. Yep.
as it was.
yeah,
So the beginning of all that stuff. So yeah, and now
adapter.
you've got Train World, you got trains.com, you got Spring Creek model trains, and some of them they do have a physical store, but most of the rest of the time it's just
Yeah,
you got to go wherever you can find them online,
it's
and
a
they'll
Yeah,
Yankee
ship it to
Dabbler
you.
is the perfect example of that. They
Yep.
have a physical location. It's it's a mess inside, but it's
Mhm.
there.
yeah. But
So,
again, they're
anyways,
good people.
Yep.
So
Well,
you
and
know.
that's why it's nice, like, because we have the N scale weekend in Altoona every
Mhm.
September, and you walk in the door and it is just N scale. So the convention hall, the layouts, everything is N scale, and so that's kind of a chance that you don't always see some of the newer stuff,
Yeah,
but you know, there's some great deals there, especially if you know what you're looking for and if you know what pricing is. So, like, I make a list of things that I'm looking for, and then within 30 seconds, I veered off that list into some other shit that I found. But like, it starts off with
yeah.
that list.
And then $600 later, you went in there. Oh, you'll spend $100. You coming home and it's just like, damn.
Right, right. Well, I go there full understanding that money is going to be spent. Like,
yeah.
there's no there's no
You
two
go
ways
with the
about it.
expectation of, well, while it's getting lighter today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually drove through Altoona a week before the show last year, coming back from a Labor Day trip to see family and stuff for mid September. I'm blanking in Ohio and West Virginia, and I was like real tempted to tell my wife as we're driving. I was like, hey, I'm gonna come back up here next weekend and get like the like, no, you are not leaving me with a 6 month old.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
But
hoping to get down for the weekend this year.
yeah,
But we'll
that's gonna be
see.
something that eventually. It's only a 4 hour drive for me. But okay, so hey, before we move on, that you said that little shop, you wanna name drop them? Like what's the name of the shop you go to, Carlo?
Sure. The shop is Esther's Hobby Shop,
Okay.
and they're over in Millvale. So it's It's on the wrong side of the river. See, people in Pittsburgh, you're either on the north side of the river or the south side, and you don't cross over. So it's forever a battle between the two sides. But a hobby shop's a good reason to cross over.
Yeah, absolutely it is. All right. So, kind of looking and watching your stuff, I know the last one of your most recent videos, you were talking about kind of doing what makes you happy in the hobby, and for you in particular, you talk about making sure that there's always some way for you to run a continuous loop, which I appreciate because yeah, there's that in the background, and I've got some stuff
Yep.
going downstairs that also includes an ability to run some continuous loop. But you're very it's your mentality is very much like, hey, it's my railroad. Um, what drove you to, I guess, bucking and basically telling everybody else to kind of get lost and kind of do your own thing, a la running around with a T-Rex on your layout?
Rexy is very popular. In fact, every video where I haven't shown her, somebody comments, "Hey, where's the T-Rex?" So I make sure she makes at least one shot. Um, but yeah, thanks to Shapeways. But
Mhm.
the, uh, the whole thing is not so much bucking the system, but with YouTube, people kind of get like they have their own bubble, right? And so
Yeah,
you hear your own voice and you think this is the way it is, this is the way it has to be. And I've noticed a lot of times in people's comments when they'll leave on somebody else's video, it's almost like they're kind of, I use the term gatekeeping. They're trying to say you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And you can absolutely do model railroading wrong. And my comment to that is you can do it wrong because if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
yeah,
If you turn it on and it doesn't work, you
You
probably
might you
did
might be
something
doing
wrong.
something wrong.
Right.
Amen.
But short of that, and I think, you don't come out of the gate and become a master artist, right? Like you have to start somewhere. You have to get training, and model railroading is just an art form. So if you are going to start, you're going to suck when you start because you're going to have to learn the techniques. You're going to have to learn the wiring. You're going to have to learn good track layout. You're just going to have to learn how to do it. And so there's a lot of times that I'll see videos where someone's just starting and the skill level is remedial at best, but they're having fun. And you can see they're having fun and they're proud of what they did. So the comment is either you encourage them or you don't say anything.
yeah,
Um, and if you see something wrong, like maybe they did something wrong, you can kind of help them out. Like, hey, I saw you did this, and if you give this a shot. Um,
Feedback is absolutely fine as long as it is constructive and positively worded. We're not trying to
yes,
put people down and make people feel bad about not having skill because they're
right,
learning.
right. And I mean, there's nothing worse than frying a decoder or messing up a turnout because you got plaster in it. Or I mean, we've all done
Yeah.
it. Like we've been there. And so it's a great resource to go online and find those videos. And I try to keep it light because there's right now, I mean, like the pushes towards video games and technology and
Mhm,
computers, and nobody wants to do anything with their hands.
mhm.
We see it in I see it in my profession. I get a bunch of skilled tradesmen, and they can't do anything. It's like, what do you? I thought you guys were trained, like, and it's just like that there is a skill set that is missing, and so we want to get the next generation of people into model railroading, and if you don't do what's fun and you don't do what you want to do, then you're not going to get that group in there, and so my railroad, I like to watch long trains run through the scenery. Like that's what I want to see. And, where I grew up, it's common to see massive coal trains and intermodal trains running with now you see it, they look like two trains together and they've got the DPUs in the
Mhm.
Mhm.
beginning and the end. It's just like, okay, I want to model that because that's what I know, that's what I see. Well, I can't do that if I'm running point to point because I get to the end of my yard and I've got this massive train and now I gotta reconsist to take it all apart and move it all around. Yeah, like and I mean you guys have seen scale trains locomotives, or you own scale trains locomotives,
You don't want
you
to
don't
touch
want to.
that.
You don't touch that. It goes out of the box, it goes onto the layout, and that's the last time the hand should be on it. So um, that's just, it's one of those things where the continuous loops allow me to just run those trains. And I've got the layout set up that once it's completely built and all the track is laid, and if I do an op session, I will be running point to point. So the trains won't go through the same scene twice.
Yeah.
But when I just want to go down and I just, it's been a lousy day, or maybe it's just been a fine day and I just want to go run some trains, I can go down and I can watch trains run. Right now, I have the ability to run up to 5, which I don't
Oh,
do.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if I try to run 5 by myself, one of them is going to run into something. Like that's just I can't keep track of 5 of them. 3 is usually my limit. Two I run in what I call AI. So they run a loop, they run automatic, and then the third one I actually control and I move it in and out of traffic.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the best way to do it. But even that's not like that's work. So like if you're
Yeah.
tired and you just want to run trains, set them on a loop and just watch them go while you
Just
fiddle
turn the
around with
brain
something.
off and just enjoy the
Real fun.
fruits of your labor.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said. Like my brother-in-law and his boyfriend were just up today actually. They left a couple hours ago. And one of my wife's brother was telling me like he saw this for the first time and he's like, oh my god, that's so cool. Like, hey, how do you do your phone? Because he does Dungeons and Dragons, like he
Mhm.
makes scenery for different, like when he DMs. And there is definitely something to be said. Analog, turn your brain off, turn the screens off, and just get your hands dirty and do something. There's something that's very rewarding with that. Granted, like hey, like I produce. Okay, it's been a hot minute, but like I'll produce music. I'll sit downstairs when granted time is very finite now and throw a weekend into Baldur's Gate or something else, but nothing in the last shoot my adult life has given me the joy of sitting down and just flipping the switch, building it out, and then watching it run.
Right. And you mentioned Dungeons and Dragons, so that's like another type of nerd, right? So you got your train nerds and you got your D&D nerds.
Yeah,
I I watch a lot of their stuff on YouTube too, because some of the stuff that they do scenery wise, it's very similar to ours in some regards, and
yeah,
some of their painting techniques are fantastic.
or like
Oh,
40K.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like just watching that stuff there's a lot to be learned from some of those other hobbies.
Yeah, granted, like I don't know, like there's there's something to be said about painting minis versus like the small like I've got a couple of the shoot I'll find the link, small little lamp posts, and the wires from China are like maybe like 3 inches and you're trying to like do it and then it's like breaking them when you're trying to solder them and it's just like this is like what the f, like I'm like seriously like wasting like burying my head in the wall doing that, but yeah, I guess it comes with the territory.
Yeah.
Right.
But so kind of on what you were talking about, where there's different sets of skill levels and trying to show people on YouTube because obviously everybody comes to YouTube, and it's such a good resource and shoot, I guess what you call like the community encyclopedia for anything that you're looking for. You are starting to branch off into doing like how-to videos for some of the different things that you're doing. You want to talk a little bit about like what your future is with that?
Sure. So actually, within the next, I'm going to say it was going to be this month. It's probably going to be next month. I am going to start a Patreon page. I've got about 12 videos recorded. 8 of them are edited and finalized. That's just the other part of the hobby. That's just like um, I just don't have the time for it. And so when I get a few minutes, I actually will take my laptop into work sometimes, and I'll sit there at lunch and I'll put
Edit
videos
stuff.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but it's I started at the beginning because I expanded my layout towards the end of summer last year. I started recording the the woodwork that I did and how I did that, and then I started the foam work and the wiring, and so I actually was able to start from start to finish basically what I was working on, and I shot all those videos, and now I'm working on what I'm hoping is going to be a signature scene, but it's going to be a night rain scene, which I've not seen done in model railroading.
Yeah.
And I've seen folks where they've modeled something, then they've taken it into software and they've made it look like it's raining. To me, that's the computers doing that. I don't. That's not what I want. I want you to look into this basic shadow box area, and I want you to see a rain scene. I want it
Yeah.
looks like it's
Yeah.
raining. So I'm
I
I'm working on a multi-part series on how to do that, and I'm experimenting as I go because I have an idea, but I'm watching painting techniques and I'm trying to figure out how to make it work. So all of that's going to be recorded, but I don't want to lose track of the YouTube folks either. And so every now and then when I come up with something, like the last thing I did was the ESU load programmer
Mm-hmm.
and how that works. And if you haven't done it, it's actually really super cool and really easy. And the hardest part is making sure you know how you're soldering your little wires to your boards. But
Well, if you're broke like me, the hardest part is affording a load programmer, but
well, see it, and that's where I got lucky because at Altoona last year, somebody was getting rid of it for it wasn't half off, but it was like $50 off from what it normally is in the store. So
that's
I'm like,
pretty good. Yeah.
it was way ahead of when I needed it, but it was a hobby shop that
Yeah.
they were closing, and he was just selling everything off. So I'm like,
You pick that up when you see that for
yeah,
sure.
it's gonna sit on the shelf. It'll be fine. It's gonna work. So,
Exactly.
but yeah, so that's one of those things where I look at it as if I don't know how to do it, then there's somebody else out there that's scratching their head going, well, how the hell do I do this? And
Mm-hmm.
so when I find those things, usually what I'll do is I'll do it first and make sure that I actually know how to do it. And then I'll do a video. Hey, here's how to do a decoder. So in my video, I'm telling you it's my first decoder. It's my second one because the first one I did right
Right.
before that.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the one thing I will say is, we were talking about how some people were get a little rough on YouTube, but for the most part, our community is really good.
Oh
Like
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
it's very helpful, and everybody wants to just talk trains and help everybody else out with trains, and that's really good because you go on any other website for any other topic, I don't care what it is, and it quickly breaks down into some nonsense. Um, and so for my channel's demographics, like mostly it's all guys,
Yeah.
mostly it's older guys, and in most cases they're from the U.S. It goes the U.S., Canada, and then I think it's Australia, and then the U.K.
Okay.
But obviously political stuff being what it is, there's a little tension going on with Canada. So in my last video, I had a little bit of fun with that. And there's some followers that I have that are very obviously from Canada, and we've been trading friendly jabs. And it's like, okay, this is fun. Like you're building camaraderie with these folks who you're never gonna meet, but you're just having a little bit of fun, and it's centered around good natured hobby, and it's just a cool thing.
Yeah.
And
Definitely
so,
that.
when I do my videos, um it's just my personality that I tend to be a little bit dry, a little bit sarcastic. It's just it doesn't turn off. I can't turn it off. It's just the way it's gonna be. And so,
You're from the
you know,
Northeast. Like that's to be expected, right? Like
yeah, it's just the way it is. But I fit that into my videos, and most people pick up what it is, and so the one video, and I think it was the ESU decoder video, and I kind of let it run as I was just talking and kind of mumbling, and that actually got a lot of really good feedback just because they could hear me and my internal monologue basically. So
yeah.
probably going to do
There's,
a few more videos like that.
there's something to be said about like the authenticity of pulling yourself on camera, and it's just like look, like Dennis here, he does a weekly live stream, sometimes bi-weekly, and I'll like really frankly, Carlo, you're my Saturday morning as I'm cleaning like bottles and stuff and trying to get the kid taken care of, just sitting, listening, and kind of watching in the background. But it's nice hearing that banter or that conversation that's going on. And I think that's why like shoot, that's why we're doing a podcast because there's an audience for it. People like to sit and feel like it's a personal relationship. It's something that they're part of seeing happen in
It's
quasi real time, right?
yeah, not necessarily super produced or super edited or there's a bit of there's obviously space for that. And
Yeah.
all my YouTube, all my videos and stuff, I do a bunch of editing to trim out bits where I'm just rambling on or whatever. But like my live streams, that's just me. That's my ADHD brain going full blast. So
Right.
you get what you get when when you tune in.
And see,
And
that's fun.
there's some realism to that.
Oh
So
yeah, absolutely.
And you know, it takes us from just being a voice behind a camera to actually being somebody.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
when you meet the people at the train shows,
Right.
they know who you are for other
Yes.
than just that guy who's at the beginning of the video, you know.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, in the world of the dead internet, we are not AI. We are
Yeah.
not DeepSeek or ChatGPT or whatever it is. We are actually real, flesh and blood people. Or maybe that's what they're, the
Yeah,
deep state is making
that's
you
that's what
think.
we
We're
want you
Yeah.
to
we're
think.
all real. We're all fake. Yeah,
Picture a
Yeah.
world.
yeah.
Yeah.
Some.
I think I got the tinfoil over here. I better start making a
Yeah.
hat.
Yeah,
I can pop some solder on my head. Is that good enough?
close enough. Um, Carlo, what's been probably you say your biggest success for you personally in life? Like, what do you take the most joy in outside of like obviously the running of train, like the big trains, but like when you do your work.
Oh, that's a good question. I think if I had to look at something, it's the winter scenery that I do,
Mm,
because I spent a lot of time working and perfecting that, and I had some articles. I think they were from let's say the early '90s. A gentleman by the name of Rand Hood wrote in Model Railroader two-part article, and growing up, I didn't have a subscription to Model Railroader, but I had like part two that showed how to do the melting snow and not the actual snow.
Yeah,
Um, and I was always looking for the back issue until I found it online
that's
and
pretty cool.
realized all the products he was using, they're not available
don't
anymore.
exist anymore. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, and actually, one of the things that sort of irked me is I ended up dropping my Model Railroader subscription probably a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, um, and it was because I was getting more enjoyment out of the YouTube stuff than I
yeah,
was reading the paper. So I guess that's internet killed the
yeah.
print. Like it just sort of was the end of it. But um, they ran an article there, and it was about snow, and I went, okay, well, let me see what they're doing. And once again, the guy going through and showing you how to do stuff, he was using products that he had in his house that were no longer available. And I'm like, well, this article doesn't help anybody because this material is not available. So, like, that doesn't
How
work.
do you? Yeah,
So I go to the hobby shop and I try to find, you know, various materials, Deluxe Innovations, AK Interactive, and there's a couple of others that make some snow products, snow and ice, and I just experiment with them and I try things and I look to see what the gamers are doing because they do some snow bases and how they make snow and ice and kind of mash it all together. So a lot of folks do copy a comment on the snow scenes,
hmm
and so and I'll be honest with you, those scenes have probably been reworked 3, 4 times over,
yeah.
because I learned something new, and so I go back and I do them again. And I was looking at some stuff today that I was like, this needs touched up. So it's just one of those things. I think that's probably my pride and joy is the winter scenes, and there's going to be more now that I've got more space to model. Unfortunately, I've lost my access to my 3D printed snowplows, so I'm gonna have to figure out what to do there.
Yeah. Okay, so greatest success there. What's probably your biggest challenge, biggest struggle that you have with the hobby?
DCC. More
Really?
specifically, sound. Like DCC itself, very it's intimidating to learn. Because there's a lot of jargon that you have to know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And I was I was not smart, but I was fortunate. I bought the Digitrack Zephyr Express, and that set makes programming decoders very easy. And so you can be a DCC idiot like I was and figure it out real fast. And the nice thing is, you can. The first thing I learned how to do was reset a decoder after you screw it up.
Hmm.
Um, but now that I've moved into sound, the sound was intimidating until I did it and saw how easy it was with the low programmer. But the low programmer takes that again and it makes it where you can set CVs real easy without having to figure out what the CV needs to be. You just basically tell it what you want it to do, and it sets the CVs for you. But there's still a little bit of a learning curve there in understanding what you're changing and what you're doing. And I think it's more from the standpoint not only from the programming side but the installation side. I have some older locomotives that there's no way in hell I'd ever get rid of, but they need sound. And so, am I going to be able to jam a speaker in somewhere, or am I going to be milling out the frame? Like that's the next step, and I just got a little too much going on right now to get into it. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I I am just dipping my toes into, well, I guess dipping my toes into real frame modifications for decoder installs. I've done a couple of decoder installs and stuff like that, but I just recently picked up a bunch of these little mill
mm,
bits for my Dremel, and I'm working on I've got a DL109 here. You can see I'm milling out a channel for the wires to run and
yep.
everything. So it's a
You
process. It's a learning process, and I don't even know where I'd begin to put a speaker in this thing. I'd have to mill out a huge chunk of whatever because it's one of those old Concord models. So it
yep.
pulls like a beast because the entire thing is metal, but there's no space for a speaker because the entire thing is metal.
And once you start taking that space out for the speakers and everything, now it's not gonna pull
Yeah,
the same.
exactly.
Well, I mean, you could
Mm.
always do a little bit of creativity, use a dummy locomotive that's consisted with it, so the dummy locomotive has the speaker, and then the main one pulls the power. Have the dummy one up first, so that it actually sounds like the lead engine and everything, and then have the power one right behind it.
Just a million slugs running around.
Yeah.
I mean, the rail railroads do it. Why can't we do it in our model
Mm,
railroads?
True,
I
true, true.
technically have that right now with the little bit of HO scale I have, because I have started to dabble in some alternate history for HO scale through some stuff I have. I have a model of the original Southern Heritage Unit 4610 in HO. It was a gift for me. And at my local hobby shop, someone had sold the guy there. It was a 1970s or 80s Atlas yellow box Southern GP38-2 high hood, but it was painted in the green tuxedo instead of the black tuxedo. And I'm like, oh, that worked so well. But then the motor died the very first day I ran it for a long time. So I just took the motor out, wired up the wires for the headlight still, and I have it as a dummy locomotive that I can consist with the 4610.
Nice. Just neither here nor there, but I appreciate um Southern's, you know, focus on acquiring high hood engines in their repertoire back in the day. Neither here nor there, but
Western Pacific almost did it.
did they?
Yeah, they were going to. They ordered their GP20s with high hoods, and then they were going to order, I think, either the GP30s or GP35s, whichever one they got next. But I guess the price the EMD was charging threw them off, so they decided to go low nose. But we almost had a West Coast high nose railroad in Western Pacific.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, some fun questions just for whatever. All right, Carlo, you get one run of whatever like prototypical or otherwise model. What would you want to see and in what road name?
Okay, it's gonna be easy. I want to see a Lorem Road rail grinder.
Ooh, now that's a good
Mm.
choice. That is definitely something we do not have in
No,
any scale.
What is this?
The
you've never seen
Lorem,
the Lorem rail grinder?
Hold on, let me look this up real
the
quick.
Lorem rail grinder trains.
Oh,
Rail
this thing is a monster.
grinder.
That I wouldn't have even thought of that, and as soon as I hear it, I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I have seen this. Okay.
it doesn't exist even in Lionel,
Yeah.
let
And
alone
they make
HO
everything.
scale. That
It
That'd be
is.
dope.
That is a good choice.
yes, a
I
very
I
good choice.
I don't know why no one has. I mean, it's a complicated
Yeah.
machine, but I feel like somebody could, if they somebody mass produced this, the locomotive, which is custom, and then all those trailing cars and sold it as a set. I don't know what that would sell for, but it would. People would buy it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd probably be one of the first to pre-order it in N scale,
Oh
just
yeah,
because. Maybe HO, but I don't know about that.
and I mean
It
now
yeah.
think about this with DCC the way it is now. You could have those cars would have the grinding sound. You could put the flickering sparks underneath them. You could make that machine awesome.
Yeah.
Um, that would probably be one of my first 3D printing projects and probably my first 3D printing fail. But
You just
I'd
gotta
still,
try it. You gotta climb.
yeah,
The first step to climbing Mount Everest is taking that step, right? There might be bodies
right,
on top of it, but at least eventually you'll get to the top.
exactly.
Well, that's the thing. What you got to do is someone's just got to get around to making one. Because as soon as someone makes one and super details it, then some manufacturer will make it. That's just how it works.
I feel like
I
somebody in the
just don't,
disc. Sorry, go for it.
I just didn't want to be the guy that had to take the
Yeah.
first shot.
Yeah, I feel like there's somebody in our Discord group that has like a army of resin printers in their basement, and I forget who it is, but we need to like,
Dan.
yeah,
Yes.
Dan
just
out of the box
Out of
models.
the box
yeah.
models.
Tell Dan to start working on this, but I think he's focused on. I know he's got his list of stuff that he's doing, but
He's also about 50 projects deep right now, I think, for his business. So
yeah, but no, that would be dope. Until it throws sparks because you're trying to get to the realism, and then your layout burns up with the rest of your basement. But that's neither here nor there. All right, and I
all I'm
Small
saying is
prices.
if
yeah,
Fleischmann could make that like fancy moving around snowplow thing that they made in N scale, someone can make a low ram rail grinder.
That's what I'm saying.
I think so. This next one, I think I know the answer to it. If you could resurrect one fallen flag railroad, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm gonna list three, and then I'm gonna pick one of them.
Okay.
So Conrail was my like childhood railroad, and
Yeah.
I love Conrail. And the only reason I did not say them is because, well, they brought out the heritage unit, so we still have Conrail. Southern, I do love Southern, um, especially their green uh, paint scheme. Even the black locomotives, they're sharp looking locomotives.
They are.
Um, but I think one of the uh, most gorgeous paint schemes of any railroad ever was the chassis system, and I have a
Eddie
few
is on
chassis.
board with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a few chassis locomotives. Probably the only I didn't get the scale. Oh, I did get the scale trains. I went back and got it the SD40-2 when they came out with it. But I think chassis, if that came back, that would be the best one. Just because to me that railroad symbolized coal country. That
Yeah.
was that was the railroad. That was it was right up there with the Pensy in my mind. It not only had the gritty work, but Conrail had the gritty work too, and it looked gritty. It ran
Yeah.
like an industrial railroad. It was just always dirty. But they had an image with Chessie that they kept those locomotives, they kept everything looking nice.
Mhm.
Their PR was on point. So I think that's who I'd end up bringing back.
Well, I think what's kind of cool about that too is like to this day, granted, look, CSX is Seaboard, but their CSX's mascot is still Chessie. Like on the books, Chessie is still the mascot of the CSX. And neither here nor there, but like, yeah, totally feel you
Yep.
on the chassis system stuff.
All
But
I'm saying is CSX, put a cat on the locomotive.
somebody
Instantly.
did like I think out of their Waycross yard or something. Someone did like the
The
nose
nose,
of
yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that might have been south of DC. I
Yeah,
don't think it was Waycross.
It
It
was I
was
think in somewhere in the Carolinas. It's the same
yeah,
place where the RFMP
RFMP
nose
nose.
and the I think it
Cedarville?
was L&N nose also popped around.
Was it Cedarville? Maybe.
But
yeah,
then again, another thing that I have actually heard is someone came up with a concept of what if the chassis system survived into modern day, and someone actually said that CSX's YN3 paint scheme would probably end up becoming a chassis system scheme, just with solid blue, maybe the slant back of the yellow nose, and then just the chassis system logo font across the side of the locomotive.
yeah.
And to
But
me, like that seems like a logical step for the paint scheme to go if you're going into the modern day.
yeah, but I think too, like even CSX, the YN3 in particular, looks, or at least to me, is harkens back to the Chesapeake in Ohio and the Baltimore in Ohio for when they were, pre Chessie.
Yep.
Um,
1962 or 3 to
yeah,
73.
still has that same kind of feel to it, and also the weird twitches. I'm messing with dice. I'm like sitting over here, so don't worry about that. But yeah, no, Carlo, like, yeah, man, because you're like Pittsburgh is the middle of anthracite coal country, and like I'm sure growing up, like seeing, as Chessie was phasing out, like my family, like I have a very, very dear memory that at the time I didn't really care about because when I was a little kid, I loved Southern Pacific, but Huntington rail yard in Huntington, West Virginia, my grandfather took me, and I still remember the orange and yellow train going by, and it's like, yeah, that was a Chessie, like on, I think it was like a Jeep, it was like some sort of Jeep sitting on the platform there. It drove by us, and like my cousins and I honked its horn. And at the time, I didn't really think anything of it. And now it's like, yeah, that was such a cool thing to see. And it just,
Hmm.
they're so pretty, and they're all
Yep.
gone, and it just kind of sucks.
Yeah.
At least there's some semblance of it in the CSX Heritage, although that's the one I think I like the least because it just doesn't quite work on the
What
Gvo
the
frame.
slice?
Well, the fade, but also just like the scaling of things. It just they scaled it appropriately to how it would have been on that size locomotive, and it just doesn't work with the how the radiator is and where the color lines fall. It just
Yeah,
doesn't.
yeah,
It doesn't quite work the way it did on the Jeeps and the Dash Sevens. You know.
yeah.
I'm still gonna get it when it comes out in N
Oh,
scale,
of
but
course.
Oh God, yeah,
Of
absolutely.
course.
See, my gripe, and Dennis, this is also why I haven't just gone full into Chessie, is because I'm one of the weirdos where I really like the CNO part of Chessie. And it just everything that's out, it just feels like it's all B&O. And like I would love to see more. Like I have my B30-7, and I wish I would have grabbed the U30, but I think they're all sold out now that had CNO markings on it. But like I would love to, if Scale Trains did that SD 40-2 and CNO, oh yeah, I would have bought that in a heartbeat. But it's just there's just I don't know. That's just me.
Could always learn to paint them yourself.
No, I'm not touching that on a scale train. Like
Yeah, that's fair.
even weathering, like Dennis, I know you have your scale trains that she did you weather that one?
I did, but only with powders. So if I'm not happy with it, I can just take a damp paper towel and kind of dab it
Yeah.
all off, and it's done.
I mean, that's probably the most prototypical anyway. But man, yeah, medicine's starting to wear off. So guys, I think that is going to be it. Carlo, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to, I know we've been coordinating this. You're busy, we're busy. Um, thank you for answering an email a month ago, and then like within like the last week, I mean, like, oh yeah, this is still on the books. So genuinely appreciate that. And for everybody else watching this, go check out Carlo and his channel. It is Allegheny Northern and N-Scale. We will be posting the links to that into this video. I'll try to see if I can put it into this right here as well. But if you're looking for more stuff on us, remember it is modeltrainpeople@gmail.com on our email, and then model train people literally everywhere else. That is Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, as well as Spotify, Apple, and as I'm realizing, I forgot to post the last episode to Apple, and Amazon Kindle, or sorry, Amazon Audible, as well. So that is it. Carlo, again, thank you so much, and
right, thanks for having me.
Yeah, have a wonderful night. And
right,
let me
thanks,
hit the
guys.
button to end this somewhere. I always forget where this is.